gonna record too, Michael?
Yep.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Go straight to
Think he
YouTube.
tight.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the
Right, know
camera.
what he's doing?
I didn't even say that.
Okay, he said that.
No, she said
I
to
see.
the camera.
Oh,
Oh, she telling you to go
oh.
Huh?
he was about to jump out his seat. What? How long you been doing it? 6 months.
Q, but the film is rolling.
Is everybody that's gonna be talking?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody could.
Hello, my name is Michael Lewis, and we're in the home with Miss Adrienne Bernard, Glenisha Metz Hyder, Carl Bernard, who are the family members of Danielle Metz. And they're sitting here going to share with you the problem that we're having with this case. Danielle Metz was sentenced to 3 lives plus 20 years. And we'll start with you, Carl. How was life for you after your mom was taken away when you was 7 years old?
Well, it was a totally different transition, you know, because the person that you be with is your mother at all times for the most part. If it wasn't for the terrible what transpired, that's what it would have been like, you know, so it was totally different. When the situation came, I was real young, so I really didn't understand what was going on, like, totally. So I was kind of confused because I was only, if I'm not mistaken, like, what, 8 years old? So it was just totally different. My life was upside down until now. It's still the same. It hasn't changed that much as far as my feelings and stuff like that. You know, before I wake up in the morning, that's one of the first things that's hit my mind since then. I'm 26 years old now. It's been basically the same. It's been rough, you know, but you know, I pray a lot. You know, I keep faith, things that basically my mother tell me to do, you know, just be consistent with my prayer, because whatever it is that you do, I feel as if you have to be consistent with it to get the results that you want from whatever it is. And that helped, you know, that helped me, and, you know, that uplifted me a lot, you know, through God and just having faith and just being strong. And by my mother, who is, you know, who's actually, you know, what everything is about. It was really, you know, she's going through it and she's really standing up. She's being strong. Of course, she would like help as well as, you know, we doing everything that we could do within our ability, the whole family, to help her. But of course, she still needs a whole lot of help because of the situation. It's a big situation, so it's going to take, you know, I feel as if it's going to take big things in order for it to help her. So, but it's been rough, you know. We just been praying, like I say, just being consistent with the situation as far as prayer. Everybody in the family being just as helpful as they can be. So even with that, you know, we still need a lot of help and stuff, because the task that is at hand is a big task or whatnot. So it's been hard.
It's been hard. And Glenisha, you were 3 years old at the time. I know you probably don't remember everything that happened, but from what you can recollect, can you tell and share with the people how you felt from 3 years old to present?
I didn't really feel anything because I didn't really, you know, remember too much of it.
So from 3 years old till now, what have you done, being that your mom has been taken away from you?
I didn't want to tell you.
Yeah, what have you done, being that your mom was taken away when you was 3, locked up, her and your dad? What do you do day to day? You think about her? Do you visit her?
Yeah, I go visit her
You go visit her?
every other weekend, and I think about her a lot.
Okay. And Adrienne, Danielle is your sister. Can you share the mutual bond that y'all shared and what you have done from the moment she was taken to present?
Well, Danielle is my baby sister. She's the youngest of 9 siblings, and it was devastating on the family, and there's so many other elements that played into her being sentenced. And for one, when it first occurred, you know, she asked me to take her 2 children, which was Carl and Glenisha. So I lived in Los Angeles at the time, and I did take on the responsibility of raising Carl and Glenisha for the first 2 years. And when Carl turned 9 years old, he decided that, well, his mom made a decision that, you know, he wanted to go and live with his paternal grandmother, who did a phenomenal job raising him. And by me living in Los Angeles, Danielle, when she was sentenced to the 3 life sentences plus 20 years, it blew our minds because they didn't have any evidence. So what they did was go into some of the prisons of ex-convicts and that were already presently doing time, and they solicit them to get on the stand and lie, and basically that's what happened. So no drugs was ever produced, no monies was ever produced or anything, so that they convicted them under the RICO law, which was designed for crimes of big time mafias. So we all know, when did we as a race, African Americans, have the clout to go out and purchase airplanes and all of these things to bring drugs into the neighborhood? Never heard of. So that's what that law was set up for, the RICO law. And conspiracy alone gave them a life sentence. And so what they did was, if you and I, Brother Mike, if we have a conversation and just have a conversation talking about something we'd like to do, we're just talking about it, and that's it. But we've never followed through on any plans of that discussion. That discussion alone, the government says that's conspiracy, and that's what brought her the life sentence. And then money laundering, and I think it wasn't no possession of anything like that, because again, they never got any drugs or anything off their persons. So they really had people to come forward and bear false witness. So really they perjured themselves, and they gave them a sentences reduction in return for their testimony. Danielle was a first-time offender, never been in trouble a day in her life, not at all. And we thought this was harsh and cruel. And I'll never forget, on the day of her sentencing, the judge said if it was not for the mandatory minimum sentencing guidelines, she would have only received 5 years. So imagine if those mandatory sentencing guidelines weren't in place. That's a vast difference. 3 life sentences plus 20 years compared to 5 years. Okay? First time offender, never been in any trouble. So that was really harsh, and we took our chances as a family, because again, we were told by the attorney that they didn't have anything on her, and the attorney that she had was a traffic court judge, and we hired him because we were referred to him by someone else. We had no idea that he didn't have any previous experience in criminal law at all. So basically, these mandatory sentencing guidelines were set up for big time mafia bosses to get them off the street. Period. But when that happened, they took the discretion out of the judge's hand, and they have a guideline that they have to follow, and that's just real crazy. You know, she'd never been arrested. She was not a murderer. She wasn't a child molester. Wasn't a rapist. Wasn't a drug addict. None of these things. You know, that you can just pronounce a life sentence on somebody and just lock them up and throw away the key. But anyway, let me go back to when she was sentenced. She decided to come to California because I was only like 5.5 hours away, living in Los Angeles, and she wanted to take the response of that burden off my mother, which is up in age. My mother's 75 years old today, and you know, I've seen the struggle, and I've seen what this has done for my mother, physically, mentally, spiritually. I mean, you name it, my mother has been through it, but she's been so supportive of Danielle. But I was able to come and bring the children, and we would drive every month or every other month to Dublin, California, 5.5 hours from Los Angeles, to visit Danielle. And my mother comes religiously, faithfully, twice a year in June for Danielle's birthday and Christmas. So my sister has been locked up 19 years. 19 years, and my mother have never failed to come up here twice a year to see her. So that really takes something. So my greatest desire is to see Danielle free.
Amen.
And she has served 19 years. And that's more than enough time for whatever they sentence her for. That's more than enough time. So my desire is for people to get involved. And you know, if it happened to your family member, you will want everybody and their brother, their sister, their cousin, and everybody else to get involved. And you know, we always talking, but when it comes time to take action, where are the people that's gonna put their money where their mouth is? You know, it takes money to buy land. So we have people out here, capable people, and if we would just all come together and petition and petition our government officials. You know, the president have a presidential power to make some decisions. This 19 years, that's enough time for anybody to have served, especially a first-time offender. So I tell you, these federal sentencing guidelines, they have been devastating to the African American community and to some of the other cultures in the land. So it's just not us. It's other people that have been affected by these federal mandatory sentencing guidelines.
Now, I'd like to go back to ask you a question, Alicia. Listening at Adrian, she said when y'all was younger, traveling back and forth from L.A. to Dublin. I remember in one of your previous statements, you did a video. And in your video, you were saying something about a jailhouse Santa. He would ask you, what do you want for Christmas?
Yeah,
would you like to share that with us?
Yes, he would just, all the time on Christmas, all the kids will, they'll have like a bag of candy and give us a book, and then we got the opportunity to sit down on Santa, and he would ask, what do you want for this Christmas? And, you know, I would say that I would want my mom to come home, but she never came home and she never returned. So I just stopped believing in him, and, you know, it was useless to sit on his lap anymore because he couldn't fulfill what I desired for him.
So out of all the presents that you would wish for, or that any child would want to have, your simple wish was that of your mom being home.
Yes.
That's amazing. Jailhouse Santa failed to deliver from what a young child, innocent, asked of him. Could you imagine you sitting out there, how you would feel if you were in that same predicament every year, Santa Claus asking you, what do you want for Christmas? Then looking upon your face, knowing he cannot fulfill the petition that's asked of him. That's where we stand at today. We're still asking you out there to support this cause, repealing the mandatory sentencing guideline. Now, Carl, I have come to know you by being an advocate with the family. And from my understanding, you are somewhat musically inclined. Would you like to share some of your background with that?
Well, when I first started doing music, that was basically just a way for me to express the things that I was going through. To be completely honest with you, when I first started doing music, it wasn't music. Actually, it was just poems. Just basically expressing the ways that I feel and stuff like that. It was kind of how you can escape from the real world, like my dream world, where I can really paint the pictures however I really wanted to be, and it be whatever it is I see fit. Draw my lyrics within it, and you know that's what it was at first for the first couple of years. It just was my way to escape, because I never really was like a social person and stuff like that. I'm always to myself, like I'm a real quiet person. So that was just a way for me to express the things that I feel, because I'm not really the type to really express it verbally. So I just started doing that since I was like 7 years old. Just was consistent with it for a long time, and just doing everything that I could do within my ability, even though I didn't really have as many outlets. You know, New Orleans being a small city, not a big city, you really don't have as many outlets as Los Angeles or New York and stuff like that. But just pray